Yo, what's going on, guys? Seth Spartan here, nutrition, training, and hormone expert and Prometheus Pro bodybuilder with Prometheus HRT, the world's best testosterone and hormone replacement clinic. Use my code Spartan to save on either testosterone or HGH replacement therapy, or peptides, or Anavar, Anabol, or even Dianabol, as long as you qualify, and the list goes on. Guys, without any further ado, this is Dianabol unleashed like you've never heard it before. Guys, we're going to go through all the pros, unbiased, uncensored, absolutely everything you need to know. Then we're going to go on into the cons. Again, unbiased, uncensored, literally everything you could ever want or need to know. We're going to drop down from there and talk about dosage, dosing. We'll talk about medical recommendations of Dianabol as far as dosing goes. And then we're going to finish on up talking about any extra additional information that plain and simple people either just don't want to talk about or that most people just don't know in the first place. So guys, without any further ado, this is Dianabol Unleashed. I'm Seth Spartan. Here we go. And guys, make sure you stick around for the cons too. Don't just stick around for the pros. There's a lot of seriously negative effects with Dianabol. One of the worst being a very high liver toxicity, bad on the heart, and possible kidney damage in terms of high dosing. So stick around. Dianabol Unleashed, here we go. Starting with the pros. Dianabol, anabolic androgenic rating or ratio of anabolic 150 to androgenic 50. So guys, on paper, right when we just take a look at the anabolic androgenic rating or ratio, what do we see? We see decently high anabolic of 150 when compared to native testosterone, and an androgenic of 50, literally half the androgenic component of testosterone on paper using the latest. And guys, these are the latest, most accurate anabolic androgenic ratings that we have available. 150 anabolic to 50 androgenic. So again, when compared to base testosterone, half the androgenic component of testosterone, which is good. It's not as low as something like Anavar, but what is? So Anavar, being a 24 androgenic, being about a quarter of native testosterone. Dianabol is about double. It's at a 50, but still we can call it low androgenic. And the anabolic component, about 50% on paper. Again, according to this rating system, we have about 50% more anabolic in terms of milligram per milligram as testosterone. And guys, I want to say too, this anabolic androgenic rating or ratio lines up pretty well with the real world, what we see in studies. Has to be said. Having said all that, moving on. Dianabol is a testosterone derivative anabolic steroid. Now, guys, we have testosterone derivative. We have testosterone derivatives. We have DHT or dihydrotestosterone derivatives, and we have 19-nor derivative anabolic steroids. So almost every single anabolic steroid we have in existence, guys, is going to be found in one of these three classes: testosterone, DHT, or 19-nor derivative anabolic steroids. Dianabol is a testosterone derivative, meaning it's derived from testosterone. And guys, I want to say most of Dianabol is a first class or first generation anabolic steroid. It's derived from testosterone. As time went on, people were deriving anabolic steroids from more specific, either medical functions or performance functions. Using DHT, using a DHT derivative base instead of a testosterone derivative. Why? Because DHT derivatives are more hardened against metabolism in the human body, making them a more potent muscle builder, fat burner, much higher anabolic ratings. At the same time, will not and does not convert into estrogen. That's why Dianabol, one of the first anabolic steroids made for performance, that's why it's a testosterone derivative. Again, it's not like a DHT derivative, which is going to be like Anavar, Anadrol, Winstrol, which are hardened against metabolism. That's why that anabolic component's lower. And also, it's really one of the first attempts at making a performance-based anabolic steroid. Dianabol, you guys probably already know this if you're watching this video, but I'm going to throw this in here. Dianabol was made solely for performance enhancement. It was made to basically enhance performance, especially for the U.S. Olympic team. And Dr. John Ziegler, who invented Dianabol, was both a scientist and a doctor. Enough on that. Just wanted to throw that in there, so, just in case people wanted to know. It's not really, people talk about it, but it's not really, I think the history behind why it's made tells us a lot about the chemical composition and its effects as well. Moving on. Testosterone derivative, first class or first generation anabolic steroid, unlike DHT, most DHT derivatives and 19-NORs. Moving on in the pros, low androgenic, has to be said, give credit where credit's due. Dianabol is a low androgenic anabolic steroid. Now, I know what you're saying. It's only it's not as low as Winstrol or Anavar or other oral anabolic steroids. Completely true. Completely right. Having said that, the androgenic component being 50 is still half that, guys, of normal testosterone. And at the time, this was a huge breakthrough for Dianabol. Dianabol was used in young children, young girls even, to treat different medical conditions. Just because that it was better at the time, obviously, than testosterone. Looking at the anabolic androgenic component, but obviously, guess what? There were problems. In one of the cases I saw, these women that were treated, or these young girls that were treated with Dianabol, it had, masculizing side effects or virilization side effects from using Dianabol. Why? Obviously, it's a 50, so it's half that of testosterone, but that androgenic component is still there nonetheless, has to be said. So in terms of medical usage, nowhere near as good at treating women, children, as a drug like Anavar, Anadrol, and such. Why? Because the anabolic component isn't as high, and the androgenic component isn't as low milligram per milligram, which means that you have to prescribe more of it to get the same effect. Anyways, moving on with the pros. Man, you guys are getting a lot of information. Dianabol. Or one last thing I want to say though, the androgenic component, it's not super low. It's good, but it's not the best. Again, half that. That's right. It's the same androgenic as EQ. Moving on. In the pros, Dianabol converts to estrogen. Now, why is this in the pros? Why isn't this in the cons? Well, guys, if you think about a lot of anabolic steroids, it converting to estrogen and not converting into estrogen are both pros, depending on what you're using it for and what you're looking at. So let's take a drug real quick that does not convert into estrogen. Let's just take let's take Winstrol, all right? Winstrol does not convert into estrogen. Why would this be advantageous? Advantageous for not letting estrogen levels get too high, especially you're able to take more and more. You're able to take it at higher amounts. Estrogen won't climb as high. You don't have to worry about any estrogenic side effects from that. But on the flip side, you need to be using a TRT or HRT, even probably a higher dose HRT or TRT. Why? Because Winstrol actually has an AI effect. Go watch my video, Winstrol Unleashed, on that. Having said that, another problem with Winstrol is you can't use it as a standalone. It's not going to, your estrogen will crash too low and you'll have terrible side effects if your estrogen gets too low, especially in males and females. Think, some terrible side effects of low estrogen in men are, can make you suicidal, depressed, joint pain, insomnia, all these other things. Whereas if somebody wanted to prescribe, or a doctor wanted to prescribe Dianabol, he could prescribe it as a standalone drug. He wouldn't be able to prescribe it as high, but he would be able to prescribe it, or he would not be able to prescribe it as high without using an aromatase inhibitor. However, he could prescribe it at dosages lower and give it as a standalone drug. Why? Because you're still going to have estrogen conversion, so you're not going to have the low estrogen side. So really, if an anabolic steroid converts to estrogen, it can be a pro, but also can be a con. Moving on in the pros. Again, it's just dependent on what function guys are using it for. This has to be said with Dianabol. It has to be said with any anabolic steroid that's going to convert at a decent rate to estrogen. With Dianabol, large increases in both HGH, that's human growth hormone, and IGF-1, insulin binding factor 1. What does this mean? And why is this? Let's say we take Anavar, Anadrol, or Winstrol, right? Or Primabol or Mastrol. All these drugs will not and do not convert to estrogen. What does that mean? They have no impact whatsoever on HGH, IGF-1 levels. However, you take a drug like Dianabol or testosterone or equipoise that convert into estrogen. This is going to give, let me read this for you guys. Dianabol, large increase in HGH, IGF-1. Why? Scientists couldn't figure this out right away. They thought that, the more of whatever steroid you take, the higher HGH and IGF-1 levels, right? Wrong. Ultimately, they found out, and this is non-debatable in the scientific, this is not debatable. And if you're a doctor, you'll agree with me. Anabolic steroids, the androgens, do not raise HGH or IGF-1 level. What raises HGH and IGF-1 level is the conversion of the androgen into an estrogen metabolite. What does this mean? Testosterone, Dianabol, equipoise, any steroid that's going to convert into estrogen will increase HGH, IGF-1 levels depending on how much of it converts into estrogen. Why? HGH production and release in the human pituitary gland is not reliant upon androgens, but rather it's reliant upon it's not reliant upon testosterone, but rather it's reliant upon estrogen. Man, I'm glad I caught that. That would have been a bad flip. So again, you take any drug that does not convert into estrogen, Primo, Anavar, Winstrol, you're not going to get any increase in HGH, IGF-1. However, testosterone, especially Dianabol, because Dianabol converts heavily into estrogen very fast. So those drugs, testosterone, Dianabol, if it's an estrogen converting drug, you're going to get large increases in HGH, IGF-1. Now I want to clarify something. I can't wait till the cons to clarify this now. This does not give, this is not me telling you guys to take large amounts of testosterone or Dianabol or whatever, with the prescription, without a prescription. Absolutely not. Because, if you, as long as you're in that estrogen range, you're good. And it would be better in terms of HGH release and risk to reward. It's better to have your estrogen higher or lower as long as you're in that range. However, letting your estrogen skyrocket is going to give you negative cardiovascular implications as far as heart and arteries, okay? We're talking plaque buildup in the arteries and other problems from having high estrogen levels. So this is not me telling you, get as much HGH and IGF-1 natural release that you can. Just take tons of Dianabol or testosterone. Not at all. I'm just saying, guys, with anabolic steroids that convert to estrogen, this is going to boost up HGH, IGF-1. Moving on in the pros, Dianabol. Good muscle builder. Has to be said with Dianabol. This is going to be a shorter video because there's not as much to talk about with Dianabol as some other steroids, such as Anavar or Winstrol. Dianabol is very straightforward, and this cannot be said enough of this next point. Dianabol, has to be said, it is a good muscle builder, period. And really, guys, Dr. John Ziegler, the scientist and doctor that created this, what he intended this drug for and what he set out to do, he absolutely intended it. He nailed it. He hit the nail on the head. He did it. He did it with Dianabol. He wanted to create an anabolic steroid that you could take orally that would be more anabolic than testosterone and less androgenic. We look at the rating. Again, I said this rating is pretty close to the real world. It's not skewed like halotestin or other drugs. So when we look at the rating, did Dr. John Ziegler accomplish what he set out to do with the creation of Dianabol? We can look at the rating and say, yes, absolutely. It's able to be taken orally. It's more anabolic. It's less androgenic. Great. However, when compared to second or third class or second and third generation of anabolic steroids, like Anavar, Anadrol, it can't even be compared. Anavar and Anadrol absolutely blow Dianabol out of the water in terms of fat burning and muscle gain. Let me say that again. This Dr. John Ziegler, the inventing scientist, doctor of Dianabol, he did a perfect job. He succeeded. He created a higher anabolic steroid and a lower androgenic steroid when compared to testosterone, and it can be taken orally. You did that. However, Dianabol is old tech, so to speak. It's old tech. It's not it's like comparing GHRP6 to a drug like hexarelin or ipamorelin, okay? This is a first-class anabolic steroid. It's a first-class anabolic steroid. It's not been refined or specialized like drugs like Anavar or Anadrol, okay? They're just more advanced compounds. So in terms of muscle building and in terms of fat loss, Anavar and Anadrol, drugs like that, second, third generation anabolic steroids, absolutely blow Dianabol, first generation, first class anabolic steroid out of the water, okay? And people are going to say, oh, Dianabol, I get such good gains off Dianabol, or, you can look at medical studies. Look at medical studies. Anavar in medical studies in the real world, because on paper, ratings are great to get an idea, but they're only a snapshot, okay? That's all there is, guys. Boom, just a snapshot in time. In real world studies, go watch my Anavar Unleashed video. In real world studies, Anavar builds 4 to 5 times more muscle than Dianabol. Let me say that again, because I didn't say it enough in my Anavar Unleashed video. In real world studies, Anavar builds 4 to 5 times more muscle than Dianabol. Okay, so enough on that. Anadrol a little bit less, but regardless, they're both far more advanced, far more bang per buck, and again, a lower androgenic rating, and also they're less liver toxic. I'm not trying to just sit here and trash Dianabol, but we have to talk about Dianabol in terms of comparing it to other oral anabolic steroids in the same class, because they're all C17 alkylated oral steroids. All right, moving on in the pros with Dianabol. All right, Dianabol. Let's see here. This has to be said. We'll give credit where credit's due. Dianabol, long history of safe. Let me say that again. Dianabol, long history of safe, short-term usage. Now, with Dianabol, we have plenty safety studies of Dianabol use short-term, both for children, women, males. All right, it's safe short-term. All right, and that's a good thing. It was able to be used. There were some problems, like I talked about before, with virilization of females and other things. But it was able to be used short-term safely. All right. So, so Dr. John Ziegler, even though Dianabol was created not for medical use, but performance use, it still helped in the medical industry. All right. Obviously, again, it's not refined down. It's a first generation compared to a second or third. When talking about Anavar, Anadrol, it's not refined down as much, but I'm going to leave that point. I've talked about it enough. With Dianabol, let's finish out the pros here. We're almost done. With Dianabol, has to be said, good pumps. Now, this is more of a feel-good or a cosmetic thing. Good pumps with Dianabol. Why is this? When taking Dianabol for performance enhancement, for muscle gain, what are you going to notice? If you're a bodybuilder in the fitness industry or athlete, you're going to notice good pumps, full muscles with Dianabol, especially when training. Why? Well, guys, I don't have a super advanced scientific reason for you, but my professional hypothesis here is because Dianabol converts heavily into estrogen. Dianabol is one of the hardest, if not the hardest converters in terms of being an anabolic steroid that's going to convert drastically from its primary metabolite into estrogen. So with Dianabol, extremely heavy conversion from Dianabol into estrogen. Now this is going to obviously jack up HGH and IGF-1 levels, and this is where I believe these great pumps come from in terms of Dianabol, because we see this effect with testosterone. If somebody's taking 500 milligrams of testosterone a week, they're going to have really good. I'm not telling you guys to do that. Check with your doctor before you do absolutely anything. But if somebody's using 500 milligrams or even 250 milligrams of testosterone, they're going to have much better pumps than if they were at 150 milligrams. Okay, so we see this effect with testosterone. We know that Dianabol is derived from testosterone. The big difference is a much higher conversion rate. And it's interesting to note too, we don't get those pumps from what? We don't get those pumps from a drug with a super high anabolic rating like Anavar. We don't get the same pumps. So it has not. So we can thereby deduce that it's not because of the anabolic rating, but rather has something to do with the estrogen conversion. Now we know that estrogen 2 also plays a function in creating IGF-1 inside the muscles, inside the muscle tissue themselves. We're talking about local IGF-1 instead of systemic IGF-1. All right. So, anyways, that's my hypothesis here on good pumps. I don't know how I would check, prove this, but that's mine. And please, if you have any comments, leave them below. Last thing. Oh boy, here we go. With Dianabol, all right, this is Dianabol Unleashed. With Dianabol, has to be said, Dianabol, arguably one of the biggest pros. We went through this, did enough comparisons, but with Dianabol, one thing that Dianabol does that no other anabolic steroid in existence does, and got to give credit where credit's due, right, is Dianabol gives you the Superman effect. Now, some of you guys already know what I'm talking about. With Dianabol, and I've used pharmaceutical grade Dianabol. I had a prescription for it at one time, so I know what I'm talking about here. Dianabol has the Superman effect. Now this is an effect that is psychological, all right? Let's start with testosterone. When you take testosterone levels in men rise. You feel good, you feel euphoric, you feel happy, you're more social, you have this feel good feeling, all right? From testosterone alone. We know that Dianabol is a testosterone derivative anabolic steroid. We also know it converts heavier into estrogen. We also know that it does not bind as well as testosterone, meaning it exerts peripheral effects, also not based onto binding to the androgen receptor sites, all right? Having said that, Dianabol has an effect like none other, where what will happen is that Dianabol, you take this compound, you have a high amount of euphoria. It's not like taking a drug, but it's this feel good. If you take Dianabol, you're gonna feel awesome. You're gonna feel happy. You're gonna be more social. You just feel kind of like Superman. All right, you want to put a cape on and fly away, kind of thing. All right, So the Superman effect is a confidence boost. It literally makes you feel better, kind of like caffeine. So if you've used pharmaceutical grade Dianabol, either with a prescription or it's legal in your country, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. All right. So that has to be said. You have that effect a little bit with testosterone, but nothing like Dianabol. Nothing will do it like Dianabol. So, in terms of, taking a little bit of, I'm not telling you to do this, but I'm just talking about in general. Talk to your doctor before you do anything. But if you take Dianabol, you go to the gym, you're going to be happy, you're going to be pumped, you're going to feel like $1 million. Okay. So that has to be said. However, if you're doing this all the time, and the liver toxicity adds up. We're going to talk about in a second how Dianabol is extremely, extremely liver toxic when compared to other anabolic steroid or oral anabolic steroids. Arguably the three worst oral anabolic steroids on your liver being Dianabol, Winstrol, and Halotestin. We'll get into that in a second. But if the liver toxicity increases, you are not going to feel good anymore. I can guarantee you that. Guys, that's it. That is it for the pros. Dianabol Unleashed. We went through all the pros. Got through that. Now we're going to move on into, you guys guessed it, the cons with Dianabol. Here we go. Moving over to the cons. Con number one, and this has to be talked about. So one of the biggest cons with Dianabol is no different, guys, than any other anabolic steroid, okay? And including your body's native normal testosterone. The two biggest cons that have to be stated with all anabolic steroids: plaque buildup in the arteries and heart wall thickening. Now, people know what plaque buildup in the arteries is, okay? And most people know how that can give serious side effects and kill you, all right? Most people don't know what heart wall thickening is. So I'm going to take a second to explain that quick. For those of you that are, have heard this before, just stick patient for 30 seconds here. So heart wall thickening, this is what it's not. The heart, whether you are enhanced or not enhanced, whether you're natural or you're taking anabolic steroids, if you do a lot of cardiovascular activity, if you place a lot of stress on your heart, what's going to happen? The left ventricle in the heart is going to expand, basically expand that chamber so that it can pump out more blood each beat, thereby supplying the body with the needed blood and nutrients for metabolism, okay? And when you're done training, when you're done being a hard training athlete, the heart goes back to normal, no problem, no increases in mortality while you have the athlete's heart and after, no problem. This is not what we're talking about. We're not talking about an athlete's heart or an enlarged left ventricle chamber. What we're talking about with heart wall thickening is where the heart itself, the heart's a muscle. It's not skeletal muscle, but it is cardiac muscle nonetheless. So what's going to happen is you misuse or abuse anabolic steroids, which is extremely easy to do. You know, if you're doing things not under doctor supervision or you think that you're invincible, which unfortunately, you know, a lot of people do, especially young people. Of course, you know, if you're a pro and you're competing too, a lot of pros don't care about their health. Anyways, so what happens is with anabolic steroid misuse or abuse, including testosterone, people take this stuff, and what's going to happen? They take, with misuse or abuse, yes, your skeletal muscles, your muscles are going to hypertrophy, but what also is going to happen is the heart is going to hypertrophy as well. So the heart hypertrophies, which means you have a stronger heart, but also the heart wall, which people think is a good thing. Oh, it's a good thing you have a stronger heart. Well, the problem with that is when the heart hypertrophies, the heart wall hypertrophies as well, because the heart wall is what's contracting to push blood out. So when the heart wall gets thicker, what happens is that it's not able to contract as efficiently or effectively to pump blood out. So what happens is, yes, you have a stronger heart, but you're not able to eject as much blood out as you were before you had a hypertrophied or heart wall thickened heart, which thereby increases rate of death, mortality rate, all right? Has to be said. And guys, one thing with anabolic steroids, you know, there are, I'm just going to leave it at this. Listen to what I'm saying, please. 9 times out of 10, what kills bodybuilders, athletes, you know, fitness, people in the fitness industry from anabolic steroid misuse or abuse, 9 times out of 10, what kills them is either plaque buildup in the arteries, causing heart attack or something else, and also heart wall thickening. So plaque buildup in the arteries plus heart wall thickening is like this evil 2 negative synergy. And then what we saw too in this last year, or you know, it's really sad, but with all these bodybuilders dying, this effect was compounded. So you have plaque buildup in the arteries and heart wall thickening from anabolic steroid misuse and abuse, right? So you have this 2 synergy, these 2 evil synergy going together. And then you added it in COVID-19, which increases clotting and strain on heart, and studies show that COVID-19 will actually attack the heart directly. So then you introduce this third, and you know, that is my professional opinion on why, unfortunately, there were so many deaths this year in terms of the bodybuilding industry. So sad, but you know, this has to be talked about because people need to know what they're doing. And I want everyone to not just be aware. You know, I'm not sugarcoating things one way or the other. I want you guys to know all the pros, because there are pros, and people that say there isn't pros, you know, I'm going to give you all the pros unbiased, uncensored, as they are, and I'm going to give you all the cons unbiased, uncensored, as they are. You know, not sugarcoating things one way or the other, but telling you guys how it is. And you and your doctor can make, you know, your own decisions. But my job is to, what I want to do for you guys is give you guys all the information. No matter where you live in the world, we have people watching from Nepal, from Afghanistan even. So no matter where you live in the world, please check this stuff out for yourself and stay healthy, stay safe, make the best possible choices, guys. You know, I love you all. I want you all to be safe, be healthy, and really, ultimately, guys, watch what you're putting in your body, all right? So, moving on. Let's see here. Dianabol, this has to be said, extra bad on heart. Now, the reason we're talking about this with Dianabol, this has to be noted. You have testosterone, you have, you know, Anavar, you have Tren, you have all these DECA, you have all these steroids, all right? I talked about the DECA video too, on how DECA is 11 times worse for you than testosterone. Go watch my video on that. But the thing is that with Dianabol, compared to testosterone and other anabolic steroids, Dianabol, guys, has been proven to be terrible for your heart and cardiovascular system. Now, why do we know this? We know this because Dr. John Ziegler himself talked about, the scientist and doctor who created Dianabol realized shortly after that Dianabol causes lots of heart problems. Now, I don't know exactly why. I don't have all the medical I don't have a medical, theory or fact for you guys here, but we know regardless that people that take Dianabol, it does a lot of damage to the heart. Now, and a lot in the area of plaque buildup in the arteries. Now, why? If you push me to guess, I would guess that it has to do with not the anabolic rating because it's not that high, not like Anavar, but and higher anabolic rating would affect more heart wall thickening. It wouldn't affect so much plaque buildup in the arteries. So what's the reason? My guess, the reason that Dianabol is so bad in the heart, you can look up Dr. John Ziegler talking about this. You can look up, there's tons of bodybuilders in the Golden area that all had heart problems. You can tons of them. And I don't want to name them because it's sad, but that's the bottom line. Tons of bodybuilders in the Golden era that were taking Dianabol, a lot of them had serious heart problems, all right? So forget. I'm not going to bring up Schwarzenegger. You can look up, some of the problems that Schwarzenegger himself had. But moving on. So my hypothesis behind this is estrogen. Dianabol converts more rapidly into estrogen than pretty much any other anabolic steroid in existence. All right. I'm sure there's some out there that convert also at a rapid rate, but Dianabol, in terms of well-known common anabolic steroids, Dianabol converts at extremely rapid rate into estrogen. This, I believe, plays into the plaque buildup in the arteries because we know that high estrogen levels in men contribute to what? Plaque buildup in the arteries, all right? Has to be said, done, moving on. Dianabol. Another big con with Dianabol. Dianabol, no matter which way you want to slice it, Dianabol has an extremely high liver toxicity, okay? Period. Arguably the three worst oral anabolic steroids in the world on your liver in terms of liver toxicity are what? Dianabol, Winstrol, and halotestin, all right? So these three drugs, your body absolutely hates them. Now, remember, it's, Dianabol is a first class or first generation anabolic steroid. It's a testosterone derivative. So, Anadrol, Anavar, much easier on the liver than a drug like Dianabol. My personal opinion is that scientists were able, as they got better and more advanced at creating these anabolic steroids for both performance and medical purposes, in the same way that GHRP6 had a lot of problems. Go watch my GHRP6 on video. But then later on, they came out, they just got better. After GHRP6, we had GHRP2, hexerelin, ipamorelin. The more advanced, the more research, the more tries, if you would, the better they get, typically, all right? Human trial and error. This is just how inventing works. So in terms of high liver toxicity, it's undeniable, proven with Dianabol. Your body is going to hate this drug, and this is why you should get labs done, every couple weeks if you're dead set on taking Dianabol. I mean, it's just the truth. With Dianabol, we talked about this already. Extremely high estrogen conversion. So we already talked about problems with the heart, potential problems with the heart from high estrogen levels, right, in men. Well, this is also going to, not just affect the heart, but we're talking high chances of what? Gynecomastia, all right? Gynecomastia. And this is going to lead us to the next con. High estrogen sides. What are some high estrogen sides, guys? High estrogen sides: edema, water retention, bloating, bloating in the face, oily skin from excessive estrogen conversion. We're talking mood swings, the list goes on. You can type into Google high estrogen sides in men. You'll see this laundry list. I'm not going to go through all of them. These videos get long as they need to, but you can easily see that chart for yourself. And you can see what high estrogen sides will do to your body. Having said all that, again, these two, plaque buildup in the arteries and heart wall thickening, and also liver toxicity with Dianabol, these are the main facts in plaque buildup in the arteries and heart wall thickening being the most serious long term. Moving on, Dianabol unleashed. Moving on to the cons. Shutdown. Dianabol will shut you down hard, and harder than a lot of anabolic steroids. Every anabolic steroid in existence will shut you down, including Primobolan. They'll all shut you down, all right? Some a little faster, some a little slower, but at the end of the day, if they are an androgen, if they have an anabolic androgenic component, they're going to shut you down. SARMs even shut you down, guys. Talk about SARMs enough, but the thing is that SARMs, if you think SARMs don't shut you down, do 2 weeks of a moderate dose at SARMs, if it's legal in your country, and do your blood levels of testosterone after that, they'll come back like nothing, okay? People are always pushing SARMs because most of these people talking about them are also selling them, all right? SARMs shut you down just like anabolic steroids, has to be said. They might shut you down a little less, teeny bit less, but they shut you down regardless, has to be said. Moving on. Dianabol Unleashed. High blood pressure / kidney damage. Now, oh boy, I'm sweating. All right, so with Dianabol, let's look at the anabolic androgenic component for a second. Forgetting the anabolic component, we see the androgenic component's 50. Isn't high, isn't low. All right. In terms of high blood pressure, can you cause high blood pressure with Dianabol? Yes, you can. Yes, you can from an androgenic standpoint. It would take more than testosterone, but yeah, you can cause androgenic sides. But still not very likely, right? It's half the androgenic component of testosterone. However, in terms of high blood pressure, leaving out androgen caused high blood pressure, even though it's possible, not probable, but possible with Dianabol, right? However, with Dianabol, it converts extremely heavily into what? Estrogen and estrogen metabolites, which means that it's very likely to jack up your blood pressure. Why? Because you're storing so much bloat, water weight, edema, right? So the thing is that, yeah, it's not very likely you're going to get, if you take, Dianabol or lots of Dianabol or Dianabol misuse abuse, it's not very likely you're going to have androgenic component causing high blood pressure, but it's pretty likely that you're going to have high blood pressure from the rapid estrogen conversion causing really bloating and water weight. And over time, high blood pressure, guys, leads to what? Kidney damage. High blood pressure leads and will lead to kidney damage over time. And, this is medically proven. So, and not just another notch in the cons with Dianabol. So now you guys are starting to see here why, I personally don't like Dianabol. The only reason that I would really use Dianabol, ever, is if I wanted to feel really good in the gym, personally, okay? Dianabol, it has some pros, but the cons far outweigh the pros in terms of, I could get 10 times, I'm making a point here, but I guess I could get 5 times, So I could get, let's just make a literal point here real quick. So in terms of pros versus cons, I could get 5 times the pros. I could get 5 times the pros with Dianabol. If I used Anavar instead, I could get 5 times more gains if I used Anavar. Way more fat burning, and only have like half the cons. So in terms of would I personally use Dianabol? Yeah, no, I wouldn't. All right, so the cons far outweigh the pros, and we have much better options available in terms of muscle building and fat burning. Okay, you have a couple of small things which you get with Dianabol that you don't get with other anabolic steroids, but in terms of both medical use and performance, there's a reason why the medical industry has pretty much hung up their coat on Dianabol, is because there's so many better options. And for bodybuilders and for bodybuilding, for powerlifting, for performance athletes, for everything, it's just, we have better options available. There's faster horses in the race, so to speak. There's just better options as far as human enhancement goes. All right. So moving on, we're almost done. Last thing in the cons with Dianabol. Circle this. Depression, anxiety. Now, low estrogen sides in men are terrible. However, if you let your estrogen, let's say somebody's watching me and they're currently taking, I don't even know, 30, 50, 80 milligrams of Dianabol. And they're not using an AI, all right? Their estrogen skyrockets and they're going to have some depression and anxiety if your estrogen goes above, far out of the normal range, you're going to have depression and anxiety because of the estrogen, all right? Also some cloudy thinking too and other things. So I have to talk about that. There is an effect with Dianabol on mood, all right? Moving on. Guys, that's the pros, unbiased, uncensored. We talked about the cons, unbiased, uncensored. This is Dianabol Unleashed. We're going to finish up with dosing here and any extra additional information, and we are done, all right? Dosage, let's talk about dosage. Dianabol dosage, I already gave you my opinion. In my opinion, I wouldn't use this drug. However, if you want a dose recommendation, here you go. Dosing for Dianabol. Talk to your doctor before you do anything, but in my opinion, dosage 5 to 15 milligrams per day. No longer than a month, unless you're doing everything strictly under doctor supervision and doing labs. You could do that for 2 months. Let me say that again. Dosing for Dianabol, 5 to 15 milligrams. Now, where do I get this from? Right? I can say without a doubt that this is probably the best information you're going to get. Why? Dr. John Ziegler, the scientist and doctor who invented Dianabol himself, this was his dosing recommendation, 5 to 15 milligrams of Dianabol per day. Now, I know the commonplace is for people to slam 50, and I am not advising that because that's foolhardy, okay? It's just foolhardy. It's not, I mean, you get some pros, but the cons far outweigh the pros, like I talked about, and why would you take 50 milligrams of it, all right? So, and again, we have far better drugs than Dianabol to use in the first place. You know, we have like, again, we have drugs like Anavar or Anadrol. Far more pros and far less cons. Why? Because they're not a first generation anabolic steroid. It's like, why would you, let me make another comparison. Why would you use GHRP6 when you could use ipamorelin or hexarelin? Again, it doesn't make sense, all right? Opt out for more pros and less cons. That's really the take-home message here. Dosage, going back to dosage. So 5 to 15 milligrams per day, 1 month up to 2 months. If 2 months if it's under rigid doctor supervision. And what method of dosing? I would use the pre-workout saturation method. Now I talk about this in like every oral steroid video, but I got to talk about it in case this is somebody's first video. With oral anabolic steroids, in my opinion, again, talk to your doctor before you do absolutely anything. But in my opinion, the best way to dose oral anabolic steroids is by using the pre-workout saturation method. What is that? Whatever dosage of oral steroid you're taking that day, first thing you do, you get 15 ounces of water, preferably in a shaker. You throw in whatever dosage you're going to take that day. You shake it up until it appears that it's completely dissolved. If it's a good prescription pharmaceutical grade, you can achieve this. It won't completely dissolve because it's not, it doesn't dissolve like sugar or salt, okay? But the thing is that you can shake it up to where it looks like it's dissolved, all right? From there, you'll chug down the 16 ounces of water with whatever Dianabol or whatever you're taking that day. And from there, guys, what are you going to do? 30 minutes later, you go to the gym, you hit a hard workout. Now, what's going to happen is that even though you're taking, what's going to happen is that while you're training hard, you're pumping blood systemically into whatever muscle you're working. Thus, you're doing what? You're pounding those androgen receptor sites with whatever oral steroid hormone you took. So you're getting all the effects and all the benefits of a higher dosage at a much lower dosage. So you're getting much more pros and much less cons by using this method versus doing the typical, let me take, 10 milligrams morning and 10 milligrams evening. It'd be better you could get the same results taking 10 milligrams or 5 milligrams pre-workout. Okay, that's the idea behind this. And the taking it with water method, guys, I've noticed, for myself, again, I talk about this in other videos. I've had prescriptions, pharmaceutical grade prescriptions for my doctor for both Anavar and Dianabol. So the thing is that, I noticed with myself, if I'm using this dilution method, 16 ounces of water, shake it up till it's, appears dissolved, take it that way, you have much less liver toxicity that way, guys. So that's really all I can say on that. So that's it as far as dosage. We're done with that. Let's move into any extra additional information that you need to know. And then guess what? We're out of here. So what do you need to know? Number one thing, with Dianabol, there is too much, and by too much, I mean way too much, bad information on Dianabol, and we are stuck in the golden era. What does this mean? Dianabol is a golden era anabolic steroid, okay? During Schwarzenegger era, the 1970s and all this other stuff, the drugs available were what? Primo, Deca, and Dianabol. And those three steroids, while they do have some pros and some value in terms of performance enhancement and also medical, in the medical literature, they suck compared to what we have today. I'm just being plain and simple and honest. There's going to be a lot of people that don't like what I'm saying. But the thing is, guys, you can check out all this stuff for yourself, okay? You have to make a decision at some point. You're going to take logic and studies and information and facts, over sentiment. Okay, so that's this whole thing. This is why I'm telling you guys, you know, you can cut your liver toxicity, you know, to 1/10 of the degree of Dianabol, you know, because you can take Anavar or Anadrol and take way less dosage and get the same results as a much higher dosage of Dianabol. So that's my point. Okay. So, you know, we're stuck in the golden era, and there's a lot of bad information. This is also, let's cover this. This drug is absolutely famous because of the golden era. You know, people used to, you know, all the bodybuilders in the golden era, they were taking Dianabol for breakfast. They take Dianabol for breakfast. They take it for lunch. They take it as a snack. They were popping Dianabols like, what are those things? You know, they used to have those Pix dispensers. In the golden era, guys, these guys are popping Dianabol like Skittles. All right, so. And you wonder, you know, why there were so many liver problems and you know, heart problems later on. It's just it's not a good thing, okay? And guys, you can be sure that people were not sticking to this 5 to 15 milligrams dosage recommendation that Dr. Ziegler made, okay? Moving on. What else do you need to know? And guys, this is really the take-home point. With Dianabol, guys, you can build muscle on Dianabol. It's a good muscle builder. Good muscle builder, okay? I already talked about what that means. And that's my opinion. You can build muscle with Dianabol. It's a good muscle builder. Again, look at the anabolic androgenic rating system. However, in my professional honest opinion, it is absolutely not worth it, okay? It's just not worth it at all in my opinion. You know, again, Anavar, Anadrol, or testosterone. Far more pros, far less cons. Safer, healthier, more studies, you know, in terms of medical. So, you know, that's really it. That's my take-home message. You know, Dianabol, when it came out, it was a breakthrough. It was a good oral anabolic steroid. It did everything that the scientists and doctors wanted it to, but it does not do them anywhere near as good as the more advanced later generation anabolic steroids that we have now does. All right, and both in terms of performance and also in terms of, wait for it, the big S, safety. All right, guys. So that's my take-home message to you guys. This is Dianabol Unleashed. Everything you wanted to know in one video. Guys, I'm Seth Spartan. Stay safe, stay healthy, do everything right. You only have one body. And really, guys, no matter where you live in the world, and no matter where you're watching my videos, make the best choices possible, and we are out of here.